So starting the test drive in this 23 Nautilus Standard, like I said earlier, I love all that you get on here for it to be the standard trim level. Now it's still almost $50,000, but compared to what you can get with a black label or even a reserve, I feel like a lot of people will go towards this trim and not miss some of the features that come with $10,000 more worth of a price. So you don't have the sunroof here, but not really a big deal for me just with this kind of vehicle. I love, again, we still get the standard screen here with the navigation, wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and we have heated seats. And honestly, this doesn't have the full-on leather. We have that kind of leatherette, but still pretty comfortable seats. And you still have the 3-stage heated function with those as well. And again, just having the memory seat, I think this is a good option if you're wanting something luxurious, but you don't necessarily, I shouldn't say you don't necessarily want to break the bank, but you want to spend as little as possible and still feel like you're in a Lincoln Nautilus, and this is the way to go for that. Now, in terms of the powertrain, I do like the 2-liter 4-cylinder with this 8-speed, just like I do in the Edge. I'm used to having a V6 in the Edge, but I do, again, this turbocharged 4-cylinder feels fast, and there's really no downside to it. I think you might have a little less power, but it still feels just as quick. And I love all of the safety features that you get, again, with the standard. Only thing I'm missing for me would just be that adaptive cruise, but no big deal. You still have that lane keeping system, blind spot monitors. And I just love how, even though this is the Lincoln version of the Edge pretty much, it feels so much more luxurious than, like I drove an Edge SEL a couple weeks back and it's $5 cheaper, but I still feel like this is 10 times more luxurious with all that you get here. Specifically this radio, all of your knobs and buttons down here, it just gives you that top of the line Lincoln feel without necessarily paying for it. Now we'll give it some throttle here, just a little bit, and that's barely putting my foot down, so it has a lot more to give. This only has 10 miles on it, so I don't want to thrash the powertrain just yet, but sport mode, basically what that does, I'll show you. Revs a little higher, throttle response is a little bit better, but not really anything that's overly noticeable. You'd probably just keep it in drive most of the time anyway. That'll do the job for you. Now some vehicles, the sport mode is like night and day with the normal drive mode, but with this one, it just makes it a little more peppy, but again, not enough for most people in this segment to really care about. And in terms of the fuel economy, you get 21 city, I think 26 highway. Not the best, especially for a 4-cylinder, but you could probably do a little better than the EPA estimates if you stay around the speed limit, maybe a couple miles per hour higher, and don't put your foot into it. But it's just an easy vehicle, I think, to drive around town. I think the V6 Edge was getting about, it was 18, 19 miles per gallon city with the V6. And again, I just like having this Turbo 4 just because I like the feeling of boost. The acceleration curve feels more enjoyable. It's not necessarily faster, but I like it. So we're gonna get on the interstate here, and again, we'll give it just a tad bit of throttle as we do that. And again, with the turbo, I like the feeling of that boost there. That mid-range power feels nice and linear. But let's turn the cruise on here. pretty quiet in the cabin. There's just a tad bit of wind noise, but I can feel that being deadened basically by the cabin itself. And the engine noise is somewhat prevalent, but it's very calming. So not overly loud, it's just kind of there because the cabin's doing such a great job at keeping everything else out. But I think, and I've said this before, the Nautilus Edge has kind of always just been its own. I think where Ford has so many SUVs, the Escape pretty much is the main competitor to all of the other manufacturers' SUV options. But I mean, GLC, I think, for Mercedes, maybe even a step up to GLE, main competitor, Lexus RX. But for the most part, I feel like this is the best bang for your buck in that segment. But all in all, I think this is one of the better options in this segment, again, for that under $50,000 mark in terms of luxury. Definitely take a look at this 2023 Lincoln Nautilus in this standard trim level.